Cup.
Is enough for Collingwood. Centennial Cup champions in 2024.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the OJ All Access podcast, the first ever OJ All Access podcast, as a matter of fact. I'm Alex Bastyovanszky, and it is great to have you on board for our inaugural show. Every week, we'll be doing this all throughout the season. And, previously with the league, I've been a host and a producer on the OJ Today, which was our nationally broadcast television show. And then more recently, OJ on the Fly, which was a 5-minute highlight program. This is a different animal, though. OJ All Access is going to give us a chance to really get deep into the league with different guests on the show every week to talk about the most important topics with no time restrictions, which of course is an added bonus. And I am so lucky to be joined on our very first show by two distinguished guests who, if you follow the OJHL, you definitely know who these guys are. Alan Corkum, play-by-play guy for the Georgetown Raiders and previously for the CHCH Game of the Week as well, along with Rod Black. And Ron Valentine, OJHL feature writer and bird expert as well. I should throw in there as well. Ron, how was the bird season this year? Did you get to see a few nice ones?
We did, Alex. We had a nice vacation on PEI. Went through Alan's old home, Nova Scotia area, and New Brunswick. Had a great time.
Fantastic. And Alan, how are things? How are things in my old stomping grounds in Georgetown? I miss my old perch there at Alcott Arena.
Things are doing great right now. It's still a nice old arena to watch a game, and so are the other arenas around the Halton region. We've got some games this year in Milton and Burlington. So hockey is alive and well, and the weather's been beautiful in Southern Ontario here the past week or two.
Well, we're going to get to – it's great to see things hopping in Burlington again with your Cougars on top there or up near the top there in the West Run. But we'll get to that in a second. We're going to start things off. It's the first contact that we've had all season, and we've got to acknowledge, I know that some people think this has been done to death, but let's quickly acknowledge the 2024 Centennial Cup champions, the Collingwood Blues, back-to-back Buckland Cup champions. Alan, I know you couldn't make it to the final, but Ron, you were there for the final, but you guys were there for the entire season. Just a quick comment on what an incredible year the Collingwood Blues had, such a powerhouse.
Well, Alex, 99 points with the regular season, that's pretty good for a start. But once Dylan Hewden got that goal in the first game against Calgary to make it 5-4, and he was their spark plug. He's now with the University of Guelph, and he was the captain and the real spark plug right way through. And then they just took the ball and just rolled with it, and I wouldn't say steamrolled the teams, and of course the final was very close with Melfort, and that Jack Silverman goal stood up, but it shows what a great amount of depth that team has, or had, and one of the deepest teams I've seen for a long time.
It's funny, Jack Robertson, who got the assist, his mom was in the crowd, and we were texting each other. I went to school with his mother, Lorna, and then realized when I was like, for crying out loud, that's Lorna's kid, Jack, who got the assist in the biggest game in Collingwood Blues history. So she was a proud mama that day. But Alan, great season by Collingwood. And here's a question for both you guys before we move on to the current season. Obviously a powerhouse hockey team, and what a great job they have done in Collingwood. Just an unbelievable job since getting back into the Eddie Bush Arena a few years ago. Back-to-back Buckland Cup champions. Guys, is this the most powerful team you've seen come out of the OJ over the past few seasons? Like Alan, our Raiders back in 16-17 that won the Buckland Cup fell short in the Dudley in that final against Trenton. But I mean, how would they stack up against that Raiders team or any of the other powerhouse teams over the last few years?
I think the Blues will stack up very well, especially the strong goaltending of Noah Pack, who's now with Yale University. He was such a strong goaltender. I believe he had 10 or 11 shutouts last season, just outstanding in the goal. And he can stop the puck from anywhere. So he was a great goaltender. It'd be quite a battle between the 16-17 Raiders, maybe the Trenton Golden Hawks of 2016 or 2017, even the Cobra Cougars, who were the last team in the OJHL to win the National Junior A Championship would probably give them a great game. But yeah, Collingwood, I would say definitely in the last 3-4 seasons were the strongest OJHL squad that we sent to the national title.
And let's not discount the Oakville Blades, incredible team that really were on track to win Buckland, back-to-back Bucklands when the pandemic hit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Ron, you're a Halton region guy. That Oakville team was something else too, weren't they?
It was, and they got a lot of commitments over those couple of years as well to further education, and they were really on a roll too. And I think the strongest part about Collingwood last year in the Centennial was how deep they were. They're just such a deep team, such a strong team, and they definitely deserve to. They definitely deserved it. And I go back a long way, and there's been tremendous lines you've always seen that have just made history in certain places. But overall depth, it's going to be hard to match up a team against that.
Absolutely. Okay. This season, let's get into it. We're about a month and a half in so far, guys. Fascinating so far. I think we've seen some teams that maybe some people weren't expecting to be as competitive as they are up near the top right now. But let's start out east with the Haliburton County Huskies. Man, they are just wrecking shop right now, leading the East as I'm taking a look at the standings right now. Just fantastic start to the season for these guys. They've obviously got one of the top performers, one of the leading scorers in the OJHL right now, which we'll get to in a second. But guys, just to talk about Haliburton and the start that they've had so far.
Well, that first game against Collingwood, I think they lost 8-2. And then they lost a couple of other, and then Mississauga beat them, I believe, in the third game. All of a sudden, they've caught fire, and they're just showing what on this tremendous win streak, and using, as you said, former OHL players who have really come, and that's what they do. That's their strategy. The experience is there. They've been grabbing the rest of the group by the scruff of the neck, and the goalie too. One of the goalies OHL product too. So. And of course, Saturday afternoon is the only place to be in Minden. They've got fantastic fan support. Just fill the arena every game, and that's got to make a difference. They've got to be the toughest team in the league to play against when they're in their own arena.
Alan, what's your take on that? Because I mean, what a great story. They have been moving from Whitby to Minden. I mean, it's tough, obviously, in the GTA market with so much stuff going on. And I think they were kind of lost in the shuffle there in Whitby. And Ron, as you said, they go to Minden and they are the only game in town. They pack that rink, 500 fans every single night. Alan, just a great story so far since they came into the league. Haven't they been the Huskies?
Oh, absolutely, Alex. Yeah, it's a good thing in a small community to have a team like that. It's basically one of the only things to do, but they've really embraced the Huskies since moving to Minden. I mean, you always hear about selling their gear. I think it's in the local Foodland up there. Foodland is a big sponsor. I believe a Subaru dealership is also. So all the companies in Minden have really come on board with the Haliburton County Huskies. So good community support from the businesses as well as the fans. And the team is performing right now well. And as Ron said, some ex-OHLers are on this team. But the thing is, there's really no household names. There's not really a bona fide superstar, despite having the leading scorer in the OJHL, Nathan Poole. Really nobody you've really heard of in the OJHL, but that's the thing that makes them so successful. They're a team. They're playing like a team, and they're on a big winning streak right now. And I don't know who's going to stop them right now. There are some strong teams in the East Conference like Trenton, Toronto Junior Canadians, but if Haliburton keep it up and work hard as a team, they're going to go places this season.
It's fun to see a new team leading the way out east after your Wellingtons and your Trentons that you're so used to seeing. That being said, and by the way, Nathan Poole, of course, former Kingston Frontenac, is where he was playing in the OHL. But let's talk about the Trenton Golden Hawks, of course, who are there every single year. Insane fan support they get there at the hangar, at the dunk out in Trenton. And, 3 points behind the Golden Hawks, behind the Huskies at the moment are the Golden Hawks. Par for the course. Is this what everyone expected coming into the season, seeing as Trenton is always up near the top?
Yeah, I think most people would have picked them to be number one based on that history alone. They can score goals. There's no question about that. If you put the pressure on the defense, perhaps it's not as strong as it has been in previous seasons. But I think when it comes down to the end of the season, there's no question about it. They'll be up there for sure.
Yeah, and the JR season third, I should bring up as well. Such a good producer of talent the last few years, sending guys down to NCAA hockey. And they're up there again so far this year with 20 points. Tied with St. Mike's, who, of course, we all know about St. Mike's year after year they produce. But great to see the JRCs doing that well as once again, too, Alan.
Yeah, they've been picking up some veteran players from other teams across the OJHL. They picked up a couple of players that had experience. I just attended a couple last year for the Oakville Blades. They picked up Jacob Crisp and they picked up Luke Johnson in the offseason. And recently they acquired Christian Lamanna, who tried his luck at the BCHL. It didn't work out for him. He played for the Georgetown Raiders the last couple of seasons. So he brings an offensive flair to the JRCs as well. Plus, they also have a couple other players that have been there. Nathan Phillips is a young gun that's been scoring for them. So they have a great squad in Toronto, and they have some great coaching and some great goaltending as well. And yeah, they'll probably be talked about when the playoffs come, and they might be a threat to win the East Conference as well.
I was just talking to Luke Johnson today, as a matter of fact. He just named him as the captain of the team, and he's got some veterans on the team, but he said he's amazed with the young talent and how good these young players are. And he's told me by the end of the season, these younger guys are going to be leading the way on that team. He's so impressed with what he's seen since he's been there.
Over the past few years, the JRCs have been one of, if not the top producer in talent in the OJHL, just year after year. They've, and they've got a fantastic organization to draw from as well, of course, all the way down through the GTHL. So just, always up there in the thick of the battle. Let's switch to the West for a second here. And, as we take a look at the standings out West, with Leamington leading the way, Burlington, tied with them at the moment. The Cougars have played 2 more games. The Blues, as expected, they're going to be such a good draw as well now that they're, of course, the Centennial Cup champions. I mean, knowing what a great organization and people are going to, it's not difficult to recruit. And the Patriots as well with 23 points. We're going to get to all these teams. Let's start with the Flyers, though, guys, who were just ranked number 3, I believe, in the latest CJHL rankings. I've been so impressed by this organization. Sutherland Cup champions, Junior B champions, of course, 2 years ago now. And then last year in their first season in the OJHL, they come right into Junior A hockey and make the conference final. Only losing. I mean, if it had been any other team but Collingwood, we might have seen, Leamington in the Buckland Cup final in their first year of Junior A hockey. I've tried to explain to some of my friends who are out, because I'm out West now in Vancouver, just how strong some of the Junior B hockey is in Ontario. But I mean, Leamington did such a great job coming into the league last year. They recruited players, some of the top players in Junior B, as well as adding obviously Junior A talent, former OHL talent. Great year last year. And this year, it looks like they have really hit their stride, sitting first in the West right now. Who wants to take this, guys? Just talking about Leamington and what a great franchise they've been so far in the OJHL.
I think some people were wondering out loud before the season started if Leamington could keep up what they did last year, if they could keep it going this season. But I think they've shown they're more than capable. They recruit guys from the Windsor area, from the States. They've got a great recruiting system. And Dale Mitchell's been coaching them since 2021, coached them right through the Sutherland Cup. He's a loud guy on the bench, but he's got the respect to the team. They love playing for him, and they are going to be tough. I know they're tied with Burlington now, but as you said, Alex, they've got some games in hand, and it's going to be a fight.
Yeah, Alan, I mean, you've seen lots of them since they've come into the league. Of course, they knocked the Raiders out in the playoffs last year. What's your take on Leamington this year?
Same as Ron a little bit, because they lost some key players, especially Sebastian Gatto, who was such a stud in goal for them last year. He has moved on, but they brought in a couple of new goaltenders. Some of their veteran players as well left the team, but it seems like they haven't missed a beat, and they're right at the top of the West Conference again. As Ron said, Dale Mitchell, he does speak a lot on that bench. He likes to yell a little bit, but that's okay. He gets through the players. They respect him, and he respects them, and that's the way it goes. He's a great guy to talk to off the ice and maybe get a roster or something before the game. But yeah, they swept Georgetown last year in the first round, and they played Milton, and I thought maybe Milton was going to beat him out, but they just steamrolled Milton. Like, it didn't think there was no problem.
Which was
but then
incredible.
They ran up against the Buzzsaw Collingwood, and as you said, Alex, if they wouldn't have played anybody but Collingwood, it might be a different story. Leamington might have been in the national championship instead of Collingwood, but that's the way it goes. But yeah, Leamington, it's great to see them back, top spot in the West, tied with Burlington. And also, they're a story like the Haliburton County Huskies. They're in a small community. They get great fans. They're getting near 1,000 fans a game. So lots of great community support for Leamington. And as Ron said, because of the only team in Southwestern Ontario, they get to draw a lot of talent from the Windsor area. So that's what makes them so successful is they can draw a lot of talent closer to home. And for them to maybe go farther up Southern Ontario, they can just stay in their own backyard to play for the Leamington Flyers.
And when you consider how long they have to travel, sorry, Alex, when you consider how long each road trip is, Brantford was the closest, and they're not there anymore. So I mean, it's a big road trip. I know it's not big compared with some of the other leagues across Canada, but every road game, it's it's a long trip, and it takes a while to get your legs after that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the atmosphere in Leamington at that barn. It's just fantastic. I love the small town atmosphere, and that is such fertile. Some of the most fertile farmland in the world, and some of the most fertile, they grow hockey players in Southwestern Ontario out there. Yeah. I mean, so much talent to draw from, and they've just done a great job so far. But let's move to your Cougars just for a second here, Ron. Back in the high life again, looking great. Tied for first right now. They've been competitive, of course, over the last few seasons, but really looking elite this year. What's been the difference maker in Burlington?
I was talking to Kirby Tokarski, he's the assistant coach, and he coaches the defense on the team. And they've come in now with the deepest defense that they've had for a long time. And they've got a young 16-year-old on defense who's already committed, has already got a scholarship. And defensively, they're very strong. Alexander Stephen is probably one of the most exciting players to watch in the league. He leads all defensemen in scoring right now. Sometimes he forgets he's a defenseman, but he's got a wicked shot. He's got a great eye for the play. They recruited Matthew McDonald from Hawasan. And he, you say, well, there won't be another Jack Richard, but he skates like heck. He's got a terrific shot. I'm not going to say he's going to reach Richard's 50 total in goals, but he's one of the real catalysts on this team. They picked up Peter Kousis from Stouffville. That was a real steal there. Evan Dantas from Toronto Patriots. I mean, you look down the line and they just scooting all the time. My only question with the Cougars right now is the goaltending has been good some games, not so good other games. If they can get that straightened out, they'll stay where they are.
We're going to talk about some of the Rockin' rookies a little bit further on in the show, but I do want to mention, of course, and Noah Garth is leading all rookies in scoring from the Cougars. He's an 05, but he's got 22 points in 19 games, leading the rookie scoring race, and what is a very good rookie year in the OJHL as well. So great to see the Cougars up there again, and I've got an old soft spot for them, of course, because they're from the old Central Junior B. And I think about some of the rivalries that they had back with my Streetsville Derbies back in the day. Quick Derby story, which I've always got to throw in, of course, being that's my hometown. I so wanted to use, I've got a Streetsville Derbies mug from like 1983, glass mug. And I went to grab it for the podcast, and I realized I left it back in Ontario when I made the move. It's sitting comfortably. One of my friends ended up taking over the lease on my place back there. It's still sitting in my cupboard back in Ontario because I was nervous about making, when I came out about it breaking. So my next trip back, I'm going to have to bring my old Derby mug out, and then I'll have it for the podcast. But anyway, soft spot for the Cougars. Love that they're doing well again. Let's briefly touch on Collingwood. We have to as the defending champs. But, they're sitting there in third, looking super competitive so far this year. They did drop one recently to Leamington. But, guys, the Blues this year, they just, they retooled, didn't they?
Just getting back for 1 second to the Streetsville, they're back in business in Junior C now.
I actually
still the Streetsville Derby, still from the same arena in the Junior C loop.
That's fantastic. Okay, so you know what? Being in Vancouver, I follow the OJ. I did not know about that at the Derbies. That's fantastic. And hopefully they're getting crowds out at the old Vic. If I was still living in Streetsville, I would obviously be at the rink. But Junior C, run.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Fantastic. Good to know. Get out there and support the Derby Streetsville fans.
They're having a tough time right now, but they're a new franchise, and once they get moving, they'll be fine.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear, though. And get Streetsville Minor Hockey is just such a good organization too. It's great that they've got a junior team to cheer for again, because I think it's been about 16 years, maybe 16, 15 years since the Derby. Maybe not quite that long. Maybe 14 years since the Junior A Derbies merged with the Cobourg Cougars. Mm-hmm. So yeah, great to see junior hockey then back in the old Vic and Streetsville. Quickly touch on Collingwood, guys. They've retooled this season, and I mean, they've got as good a chance as anyone again, don't they?
Scores.
I think they do. They made a few quick moves at the start of the season. Got a new goalie, chipped the new goalie out. Got a new goalie, Tegelar, in right now. Used to play for NOJHL Blind River Beavers. And he's got, I think, a 5-1 record. So, his goals against average is getting almost as good as last season, as good as they had last season. So, I mean, the Collingwood Blues, 5 losses, but they're going to be, I would suggest, definitely in the top 2.
Right in the mix again.
Yeah.
Alan, I want to ask you about the Toronto Patriots this season. Now, is this just because Nicholas Fiore moved to the Patriots and brought good mojo with him? By the way, great calls this season, Nicholas, on those games. Yeah. But the Patriots this season, 11-3-0-1 right now, 23 points, 4th place. They have looked as good as anybody this season. Great story of the Patriots. Alan, what have you seen from these guys so far?
They've been a very impressive team. They don't have a lot of big names as well, but they've come together as a team. They have some great coaching and GM as well. They have Vince Bellissimo as their coach, and he brought Blake Ricci. They used to be involved with the JRCs a couple of years back. So they moved on, and now they're running the Patriots. They know how to put a good team together, and they're doing that right now with Toronto. One of those losses, though, came at the hands of the Georgetown Raiders in a bit of a shootout, but hey, that happens. But they've had some good wins against Burlington, so I think the Patriots, all in all, are going to be in the mix. I don't know if they have enough right now to overtake a Leamington or a Burlington or Collingwood, but with a couple of shrewd trades, you never know what could happen. But I think they'll definitely be in the mix in the top 4 in the Western Conference if they keep it up. But I can see them tinkering a little bit with the lineup before the trade deadline.
You mentioned Georgetown. So I know Georgetown's down in 8th right now, which pains me to say it. Of course, all those years I spent on my perch in Georgetown filming some pretty awesome teams as well from 2007 until the pandemic. We never had a losing season that entire time. It was just, one great team after another. James Richmond, who went on to coach in the OHL, still is. Greg Walters, who went on to the OHL. But it pains me to see my Raiders down in 8th spot right now with 16 points. They are at the 500 level, Alan, but just quickly tell us about the Raiders this season and what you've seen.
I've been broadcasting. I've been their play-by-play guy since 2015, so we've done some great games together. I have some good calls as well. I'm up there probably with Nick. He's a good announcer as well. This year they young team.
You'll always be my favorite. I was there for your first game. I was filming. You can't hold on. What's the story on this? Because you've done a lacrosse game for Cogeco, right? They'd asked you to fill in one day. You were a camera guy. They'd asked you to fill in doing lacrosse, and you were like, okay, you never called play-by-play before, so you started doing Alton Hills Bulldogs games, and then the next year, I'm trying to remember, did you fill in for a Raiders game as well, or did you become automatically the Raiders broadcaster because you were already doing games for Cogeco for Junior B lacrosse?
Well, what happened the first time I did a Raiders game was their play-by-play guy never showed up. I think he came from Oakville, and all of a sudden he didn't show up, so they're like, I was on camera. I was doing the camera for the game, and all of a sudden, producer's like in my ear, do you want to get on and do play-by-play just halfway through the first? I'm like, sure. I wasn't dressed for it. I think I had a hoodie on, so I wasn't like all dressed in a suit, but went and did it. I mean, it was a little bit green because I had no rosters, but I did a pretty good job, and look where I am today. I mean, it's been, 10 years now. I've been doing it for Hockey TV / Flow Hockey now. I'm doing games for Your TV Halton. I co-host Ringside with Al Galloway on Your TV Halton, and I did the games for CHCH, so it's a pretty good turnaround in 10 years, I have to say. And it all started in Georgetown. So I'm grateful to the Raiders, grateful for Your TV and all the producers and people I've had over the years, and yourself, Alex. So it's been a great career, but it's great to be doing OJHL hockey still, even these years later.
We've got some good memories of those Raiders teams. And sorry, I cut you off. I had to get the story in there. But yeah, so as you were saying, yeah, so 500 right now, but you see good things still from the team?
Well, Alan,
I think it's gonna be some growing pains this year, I would say, Alex, because they're a young team. A lot of players left. They didn't really bring in. The ownership is still the same, but I think they're more of a quiet ownership. So they have some new faces on the front office. So Sean Snyder is now both coach and GM of the team. So he's trying to make the trades. They brought in a lot of young players. There's still a couple of veterans there from last year. Connor Thompson-Dick on the back end. And they still have John Mitchell, Owen McNamara from last year. But that's the thing. They don't have a lot of offense. Their offense, they had a couple of offensive players, but Gabe Torello was traded to Milton. And then Christian Leman, as we said earlier, is now with the JRCs. So offense is going to be a little bit tough for them. There's going to be some growing pains. But as he told me, if they're going to get results, they're going to have to work hard and outwork a team every game. And they do have a couple of big wins so far this year, a couple of upsets. They upset the JRCs back about a month ago. They've upset the Patriots. They had a home-and-home with Burlington this past weekend. They probably deserved a better fate on Friday night at Central Arena, but lost a heartbreaker 3-2. A shorthanded goal by Jack Churchill was the difference. And then on Saturday, they played to a 2-all tie, so they can hang with some of the good teams. It's just a matter of when they're going to score. They have scored a lot of goals. One game this year, they scored 10. I don't know. It depends if they make any moves or not. If they stick with the team right now, it's going to be probably a dogfight to get a playoff spot. If they tinker with the lineup, you never know. But I think right now for Georgetown, you'll probably see them at best in the bottom 2 or 3 playoff teams in the Western Conference. Probably no more above. I'd say probably at best 6th, 7th in the conference.
I wouldn't worry too much about them, Alex, because like Alan said, that game Friday night against the Cougars at Central Arena, it just that overtime goal shorthanded, that was a real killer. But when they came off the ice, they were upset. They were mad as heck. And that shows that team is really already starting
to win.
A lot of young guys, and they really felt that they should have taken that game. And they played with Burlington, probably outplayed them for the whole game. But that's the way things are. And as they mature, as the season goes along, I think you'll see them mature as well.
So, guys, let's switch. We're at 26 minutes, and this is sort of undecided as to how long this podcast is going to go. And you know what? That's, by the way, just to everyone who's watching, you are watching the OJ All Access podcast, the first ever. I have to get that in there. Thank you for tuning in. And we want your feedback, in the comments, on YouTube. Please give us a thumbs up if you could. Hopefully not a thumbs down, but a thumbs up. And, we'd love to have you subscribe and comments as well as to what you guys think, what you would like to see on the show, whether you disagree or agree with the stuff that we're saying here on, analysis of teams and players and things like that. And the length, how long do you guys want this thing? Because, you can click off anytime you want, of course. I always think it's better to have more than less. This isn't Instagram, right? This is, YouTube, where we can have a real conversation, and Spotify. And so, we totally want your feedback. Everybody who's watching, please give it to us. So let's talk about for a moment here. Both of you, I want to get it, unless you've both picked maybe the same guy, but let's start with Alan here. Alan, who's been your most impressive rookie so far this season? Because there's some good ones this year.
Well, the only one I've really seen up close a few times, and especially on this past weekend, was Ryder Cali at the Milton Menace. He's only 16 years old. He just turned 16 in September. He's already committed to Harvard. He has quite the story. He was born in Switzerland, grew up in the Cayman Islands, moved to Canada at a young age. And I think he only started playing hockey not that long ago. And now look at him. He's a talented player. He had 2 goals against Oakville on Friday night and a big win against the Blades. And we spoke to him on your TV during the intermission. He's a well-spoken young man. He got his hockey genes from his mother, who I believe played some university hockey in her day. So he's a great player. He's also been drafted by the Sioux in the OHL. And he's 16 years old. He looks like a 20-year-old. And Ryder Cali is just going to get bigger and better as the season progresses for the Milton Menace.
And 4 goals and 5 points, I believe, in a game against the Chargers back in September. The kid's just been absolutely unreal. One quick note about that. We're not going to get too in depth into this. We'll talk about this on another show later, but of course, it's going to be interesting to see with what's going on with the NCAA and the CHL right now. A player like Ryder Cali, who's committed to Harvard, players have always used the OJHL as a tool to get to that next level, whether it's the CHL or the OHL, whether it's the NCAA. Now they can possibly do both. And a player like Ryder Cali, who realistically is one of the top players in the world for his age group. 16 years old. Next year, you could see him in the OHL quite possibly now, and then go to Harvard after that. So it's going to be fascinating to see what the effect is on these players, and let us know what you think about that, everyone, in the comments, if you want to pipe into it. But about what, the new path that's going to be available to these players. They're voting on this in November, guys, about, I guess, whether to allow players. But we've already seen the dominoes start to fall. I can't remember the name of the player who recently committed. He was from the WHL, though, who committed to Arizona State. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so, yes, Ryder Cali. Sorry, I went off on a tangent there. But Ryder Cali, phenomenal this year. Ron, were you going to choose Cali, or is there another guy you'd like to mention who's really stood out to you, a rookie?
He's an 07. He's a rookie in the league. But Tate Collins from the Patriots really impressed me in the game I saw him play. And the Cougars, first of all, I got to apologize to Matthew McMillan. I called him Matthew McDonald because McDonald is such an East Coast name, as you know.
I didn't call you on it. So
as you know, Alan, right? So, no, they've got a 16-year-old defenseman, Mason Roy. He's already committed to Providence. He's not been playing, got a surfeited defenseman. He's not been playing too much, but when he has played, and Mark is kind of trying to get him slowly introduced into the team, you can already see that this guy is going places. Yeah.
And another guy that I want to mention, I did, of course, I also produce the OJ Reels that go up on Instagram. I've done one on Ryder Cali, which was a lot of fun to do. I didn't even have to talk in that because we had such great announcing. I just used the announcers, and this play spoke for itself. And Alex Levshin from the Patriots as well, who just turned 18 a couple months ago, and he is committed to Clarkson. And his record so far this season, just gonna pull it up here, but he's 9-1-0 with a minuscule goals against average, fantastic save percentage, and I've been so impressed by his play so far. He's just turned 18. Normally, it takes a while for goalies to dominate.
Yeah.
For a freshly turned 18-year-old, he's done a fantastic job so far this season, Ron.
Yeah, I think that they call him the Wall on the Patriots social media. I think they call Levshin the Wall now. But he certainly stepped in there, and he's got pack-like numbers. And when as a defenseman or any player on the team, when you've got a goalie behind you like that, that gives you tremendous confidence. Because don't forget, the Patriots are a very young team, and as you said, they're doing very well. And I expect them to keep playing well for the rest of the season. As Alan said, they may not end up being a first or second place team, but they're certainly going to make themselves heard. And getting a goalie like this to come in as an 18-year-old is a tremendous boost for them, really.
Yeah, no, 100%. Guys, we're at the 30-minute mark, so we're going to start wrapping it up here. But I was going to ask both of you if you both had one. Start with Alan. Alan, biggest surprise of the season so far, whether it be a team, whether it be a player. What's your take on that? Who's your biggest surprise, shock of the season so far?
There's probably the one thing I think would be a lot of teams, that'd be the parity in the league. There's so many tight races right now. You see a couple teams in the East that are close together for first, and there's a lot of teams in the playoff mix. And the same in the Western Conference. You have 3 or 4 teams that are above everybody else, but then there's about only 2 or 3 points separating, I believe it's 5th place to 10th place. So the parity of this league is just so great right now, and it's good to see because you want great battles down the stretch. And I'd say the biggest surprise, though, would be the Haliburton County Huskies. I said they're a bit of an unknown. They, as Ron said, they started out very slow in the season, even lost to Mississauga, but they've got on a tear, and they're doing very well. And I think with the great fan support in Minden and good coaching with Ryan Ramsey, you never know where this team could go.
Ron, how about you?
Well, I was just going to say, Alan's been reading my notes because I was going to say, you thought last season was competitive and the way those conferences were. You haven't seen anything yet what's going to happen this season because with teams that are 500 are going to be battling tooth and comb to get into the playoffs. So no, it overall the balance is good. The Patriots, and going back to the Patriots, they have surprised me. The Cougars in number 1, and I know they've played more games, but they're on the right track too. The Dukes have started to win games now, and they're going to be making a noise. There are 2 or 3 teams, unfortunately, that have struggled mightily and probably will continue to struggle. But overall, this is going to be. You thought last year was good. well, stay tuned.
I want to thank both of you guys for being on the first show. Two of the best guys I know, and Ron, I've gone to you so many times over the years to get you on the OJ Today for interviews and stuff. And Alan, of course, I've done the same to you, even when you're busy at work and I'm bugging you trying to get you on one of my shows. But it's nice to be able to get you guys both after work now, where we can just chill and we can talk and not really have a time limit on it. And we'll definitely do this again later on in the season. So thanks for joining, guys. And we'll chat later on then.
Thank you.
And that's it. That's wrapping up the first show. Just thank you so much, everyone, for watching. And every week, Wednesdays, I believe 6 p.m. is the time that we're going to be doing this. So hopefully you liked what you saw. Please let us know what you thought in the comments. Give us a thumbs up, hopefully. Subscribe. And I'm Alex Bastyovanszky. It's been my pleasure bringing you the first ever OJHL All Access show. We'll see you next week.